right, green, green, green. Well, hello everybody. Welcome to the show. Today we're going to be talking about. We're going to continue our conversation that we've been having about the occult powers of the powers that we're supposed to get when we get into the occult world, when we get out there and we start doing our magic, and we start going through the initiatory process and implementing our wills and projecting our desires into this universe around us, and actually, creating the experiences that we want to have, the experiences of wealth and joy and prosperity and happiness. The basics, the simple things that I don't think it's asking for too much to receive from the overall everything of everything. So, before I go too much further, I want to talk real quick about money and stuff. Don't forget that I have my website links in the description. You can go there and you can see what my stuff is that's for sale. I've got a bunch of different stuff. So do take a look around at the shop. There's Talismans and classes, courses, all the stuff I talk about. I have classes on. I'll be mentioning those throughout the talk today, I think, hopefully, if I remember. But they're focused on the stuff that we're doing here. The concepts that I present here are by no means limited to the things that I sell. You can use whatever systems of magic work for you, whatever initiatory systems you're more comfortable with. Of course, I don't think I have all the answers to everything. I think I have the answers that worked for me, and I think they work pretty well. I hear from other people that it's worked really well for too, and I like to share that with as many people as I can. But there's definitely no. I don't think I have the one way, the truth, and the light. I just have an aspect of the light that makes sense for me. All right. So anyway, that's all the stuff can be bought on my site. Pretty much is what I'm saying. To do the work, not the work itself, but you have to do the work yourself. But all right, enough of that. Where to start? Let's see. The whole overview of everything that I'm constantly talking about is knowing yourself, right? And understanding who you are as a magician so that you can pursue your happiest happiness, right? And how to get the empowerment and the training from the spiritual realm to be more efficient in pursuing the things that make you happy, right? And I talk a lot about self-help stuff and using magic to explore psychological traumas, or I know you should always do this under the guidance of a trained professional, of course. But using the occult framework to explore your own sense of healing, because I think as a magician, there's a lot of analogs in the esoteric great work to pursuing mental health and stability and harmony. And I think that there are things that we find in Hermetics, for example, and in some of the Greek philosophies and the philosophers, their concepts of things. The Orphic mysteries discuss things about the universe and consciousness that bring healing to a troubled mind in our modern society. At least for me, I've found a lot of things have been really healing in that. And I find that other people who explore the Orphic mysteries, who had a kind of an out of harmony mind and approach to life, often can find a balanced approach to things in that. So I talk a lot about that because, in my opinion, that empowers us more. It makes us more clear in our projections of our desires, makes us happier, makes everybody around us happier because we're not miserable assholes all the time. We pursue our own will because it's for you, really, it's for you, because we don't make other people's lives miserable when we're enjoying ourselves often, especially when you realize with these spiritual insights comes this understanding that we're all part of one another, right? And we're going to be helping ourselves by helping other people. This idea that hedonism leads to pure egocentric narcissism. I mean, it does for a lot of people, you know, and that sucks. But not for everyone, you know, and you get to decide whether or not that's what it's going to be for you. You know, it doesn't matter what other people do with this. It doesn't matter. What matters is what you do with it and what you choose for your life. What I choose for my life is what I get to experience. You know, am I going to be one of those narcissistic assholes? Yeah, I could totally say it's all about me and everybody has to serve me. And I can live a life, and the universe seems like it supports other people doing that. So sure, I'm sure it would support that, but is that what I want? No. You know, I have a say in how I interpret these things that I talk about. So just choose what you want to do with all this stuff, right? Just remember that you're in charge of all this stuff. And when it comes to ideas about good and evil, and this is coming from the some conversations around those Mars talismans I was selling, the Samael spikes, the ideas of good and evil, you know, it's always up to the magician, right? And all the stuff that we're going to be talking about today, it's going to reveal more about yourself, okay? And it's through this knowledge of yourself that you understand that you're connected to the very powers of the universe that manifest the universe, that we work in harmony with them, right? The priests of the temples at Delphi and the priests to Zeus offered offerings to him, right? And why? Because he's awesome and he's beautiful and he's got this great statue and, you know, saves my marriage. Oh, wait, no, that's not him. But, you know, it brings me wealth and prosperity, maybe sometimes, right? You know, why do we make those offerings, right? Maybe that's what it is, but it sure doesn't seem consistent when you look at the record, you know? So you go to the cultists and then you get more detailed ways of working with Zeus that indicate that Zeus is not really this shiny god that you read about in the myths, but there's aspects of him in that, you know. And then you start working with that force, that Zeus force, and you start to realize that it's actually these offerings that we make aren't about appeasing a god, it's about creating a harmony, right? And as you understand more about offerings and working with gods and all this other stuff, you understand more about yourself, right? And you understand how to find what makes you happiest through this pursuit of harmony, right? So when I talk about all this stuff, I'm talking about the great work. The great work is the theme or whatever of this whole fucking thing I do. It's about transforming yourself and the world around you into something more awesome. And the reason it's important to me to do that is because I lived a long time. Excuse me. I lived a long time thinking I knew everything, right? And being wrong about a lot of things. And being going through the ringer on a lot of issues that I didn't really comprehend because I was listening to a lot of other people. The messages that I'm always talking about here about be yourself and pursue yourself and understand that this little eye in the pyramid, it's one thing, and it's manifesting this light of the one thing through you and your choices. It's to empower you to take control of your experiences, because most of my problems came from not being in control of myself, right? And what I was doing, because I didn't understand my role in all this stuff. So the reason I keep talking about this stuff now is because I wrote the Seven Spheres book to take you on this journey, and I got off the path for a while, you know, and I went off into this other, I got lost into the Vanity Fair for a long time. And what I found coming out of it was that the real truth was the real truth all along, and it's the pursuit of that real truth that inspired the whole thing that I was doing before I got off track, and resolved all the problems that I started when I got off track, right? And when I look around at all the frustrations I see on people's faces, you know, I drank a lot for a long time, and I felt sorry for myself in ways that a lot of other people do. And when I sobered up, it's different out there in real life, you know, than you think. And it turns out it's better than you think. And a lot of the crappy things I believed that made me want to drink all the time were based on the people I was hanging out with, and the decisions I had made, and the stories I listened to, and the parts of the mystery that I let myself focus on, right? I limited my exposure to the light to the things that I thought would bring me a certain set of results that were wrong because I'd blinded myself to some basic truths. And the alcohol helped a lot with that, okay? So like, and I didn't know any better. I thought I was doing the right thing, right? So it's important to me to have this whole message of the truth, you know, the good news that we are all light in the company of light, and that the light is the point, and we manifest it and we get it back, because it's freeing from these pain-inducing patterns that we establish for ourselves when we're acting out of ignorance in a dark world. You know, I mean, when you can't see what you're doing, you end up hurting yourself. And the light is there, right? And this whole process that we're talking about is opening your eyes so that you can see in the darkness that there's actually light shining all through everything, so that we make the right choices and have the results that we want, so that we understand what the harmony is that we're striving for to establish in our life and our experiences, right? So that we know how to make that harmony by making the proper offerings to the right gods or spirits or intelligences or whatever, not because we're making sacrifices to a god who will then love us in response, but because as part of the harmony, we are bringing it into tune so that the resulting music that we hear in our experiences through our five senses is the theme of what we want to project into our lives, right? And I'm not talking about controlling everything. You know, magic doesn't give you control over everything. It gives me a philosophy to process things, an understanding of how what's going on came about and what I can do about it to make it better and different for everybody, right? That's what magic is for me. It's not just the activities and magical activities. That's actually conjuring spirits and doing things with the spirits. Okay, that's what the whole actions of magic are. So when it comes to, like, Cliff Lowe made this really interesting post about what makes an astrological magician an astrological magician, and is it, you know, electing things or conjuring and consecrating or buying a talisman? What makes, you know, this magic based on astrology that people interact with in the occult community, what makes it astrological magic? And I was like, hey, it's got to be this and it's got to be that. But for me, what I realized after that conversation is that for me, magic itself is just conjuring spirits. That's it. It's only the conjuring of these invisible spirits, right? And the rest of what I talk about is the framework and a process of understanding it and a method of putting it into practice so that you can change your life. Because when you do that, you see the world more clearly, and you're just happier, you know? And it raises the tincture of the sphere of the planet, right? It makes it better for everybody, okay? And there's no point in being unhappy. There's none at all. And it's just, I don't know. If I ever seem like I'm bragging about any of the things that I go through or that I have experiencing in my life right now, it's not because I think I'm great at all this stuff. It's because I'm in awe that it actually works, and I'm just like, check this out, you guys. All right, that's my whole point in bringing up the cool things that happen to me. And I've stopped doing a lot of that because I worry I'm coming across as a complete shithead about it these days, and because things are going really well right now for me, and it's not going to be permanent. It's not forever. Nothing ever lasts forever. But you know, right now things are great, and if I start enjoying it out loud, please don't take it the wrong way. Please understand that it's not me. It's just right now things are going great, and I feel like it's because I'm in tune with some stuff that I'm trying to share with people. So, but it's exemplary. It's not braggartly. I hope that comes across. All right. So, okay. So all of these things that I'm talking about, these harmonies of the universe, you know, that we're trying to make our experiences happen with. We get to know that through this whole getting to know ourselves and getting to know God and knowing all things. And we get to know the world, the resemblance of which we bear, and all creatures which they symbolize, and what comfort we can have and obtain from stones, plants, animals, elements, heavens, from spirits, angels, and everything. Okay, so that's basically what we're talking about today, is what comfort we can have and obtain from stones, plants, animals, elements, heavens, from spirits, angels, and everything. And by the way, if you like this little thing, I got a friend of mine to make some mugs for me to be able to sell. So I've got 2 mugs available if you guys want those. They have that whole thing on the side. I've got one for myself that I drink out of now as well. So anyway, yes. So anyway, the initiatory path is what brings about the relationships that this whole paragraph is talking about, that explains, based on these relationships from these initiations, what comforts we can have and obtain from stones, plants, animals, elements, heavens, spirits, angels, and everything. Okay, the initiations themselves are beginnings. Initiation is the initial part, the kicking off of your relationship with these entities and these vibrations, right? The good vibes that we're going to get from these spirits that are going to result in good tones, that result in good changes in our life as we speak our existence into being harmonically and abundantly through our vocal cords, using our words. Excuse me. Yeah. So the things that we get to find these comforts and apply the methods of manipulating the process of manifestation, the chain of manifestation that comes, the idea forms in the mind of God. It comes down through the 7 spheres. It gets turned over to the 4 kingdoms of the elements, and it manifests in the material world where we experience it through our choices and our actions, right? As magicians, we take control, or at least we try to influence that process, right? As the ideas come down, we're like, this is the idea. Here you go, spirits of the 7 spheres. Give your powers to that idea. Bring it down through each of the 7 spheres in consecutive order, if you want to do it that way. Bring up the 4 kings and be like, Payment and Mammon, Edgin and Orient. Grant the material aspects of these 7 planetary powers to create the experience that I desire to manifest. You say all that to them, you turn it over to them, and you let them manifest it, right? That's you becoming that process. You're taking your place in the process of manifestation, and you're speaking things into being, right, through your magic, right? And you're becoming part of a harmonious process that creates your experiences, right? In theory, right, it's all vibrations, and we're trying to make it work that way. I feel like it works that way. I feel like things are going pretty good. So, but yeah. Anyway. The way that we do that, right? So speaking things into being, it's a real nice concept, but what does it look like, right? So, so what we've been talking about the last few weeks is what that's about, right? So it's not that. Let me turn off this, turn this on. So what we've been talking about lately has been column 45 from 777, Aleister Crowley's 777. It's a book of correspondences of occult meanings for the 10 spheres and 22 paths of the Tree of Life. It's a way of connecting the dots of different systems and ideas in occult philosophy. It's based primarily on the works of the Magus, was where they started, was Francis Barrett's The Magus, and they started making columns out of that and tables that related all the different information in there back to this glyph of the Kircher Tree of Life from Athanasius Kircher's interpretation of Kabbalah back in whatever year that was. This was the glyph that the Golden Dawn decided to use to sort of put everything in order. We know that Alan Bennett primarily put most of this stuff together and then gave his notes over to Aleister Crowley, who put it into a spreadsheet format. Basically, 19th, 20th century, early 20th century version of a spreadsheet, and 777 is the result of that, and he added some things and he pushed some things around and rearranged things to suit his needs. But 777 is his sort of, it's better than what he would have come up with on his own, but it's definitely some of his finest inputs at the time in his career to date at that point in his publishing history. But it's very useful for magicians these days, as long as you take it as inspirational rather than anything concrete, or make sure you're looking at it through the lens that he's a fucking misogynist, he's a trust fund baby, he was an entitled English piece of shit in so many ways. Okay, he wandered around the world learning all the things from the dark-skinned people he could, and then he put it all together to tell them what it really meant. Just like the Theosophists, he was a Victorian age, living the lap of luxury of the English-British Empire, upon which the sun never set. He was a filthy piece of grunge in a lot of ways, not because he was personally a piece of shit, but because he was personally programmed as a person to be a piece of shit. All right, and he was really smart, and he should have been able to overcome that. But you look at some of the things in this book, and you're going to find terrible things. Okay, the same can be said of Agrippa. The same can be said of the Megaton. The same can be said of the Greek magical papyri. There are horrible things in our occult history that reflect the times and the people. Hey, Roberto, how's it going? Saludos. But this whole thing that we're talking about as magicians is we're filtering out the good parts of every system to find the gold within. Okay, the great work is about transforming the pile of crap and turning it into something useful that we can apply to make our world better, right? So part of that is 777. We have to get rid of the stuff that we know is misogynistic. There's racist crap all through all of the Golden Dawn stuff. One of the reasons I went back in time to the 16th century to source most of my occult knowledge on was because everybody I knew coming out of the Golden Dawn system was a piece of crap. And that was not because I knew really good Golden Dawn people. It was because the ones I hung out with were pieces of crap. Because I was also, guess what? I was also a piece of crap at the time. I was not a very nice person on the internet. And I hung out with other people, and I've competed with other not nice people for respect and recognition amongst a crowd of onlooking, cheering, I don't know, people eating popcorn and making fun of our mental illnesses. It's kind of very, very much like modern culture if you think about it. Yeah, it's very gladiatorial sometimes how people make fun of or make use of people's mental illnesses, right? It's like you know what buttons to push to make people start squawking about things, and you can watch people manipulating people. Anyway, I get it. Anyway, I was one of those people at various times, and sometimes I still am. And it's like, I hate when I find out that I've been manipulated, and it's disturbing to see other people getting manipulated. But anyway, point is there's crap in the occult universe that we have to filter out to find the good of it, to keep getting the value of this system out of it, right, and to make it worth our time. And it is worth our time. It transforms us mentally, physically, and spiritually into amazing luminous beings, right, who are able to experience some of the most incredible aspects of our existence and share that with other people, right? Not just for ourselves, but for the benefit of everybody, right? Not just like because it makes me happy, now you're going to be happy. That's a big deal, honestly. I wish everybody was happy, but also because you build things for people to use to get ahead in life, to find your happiness, and you do it without meaning to. I had a friend call me from years ago because he knows that I am at a place where I can hear him, right? Because he knows what I've been through. He was there when I was at my worst, and he saw me get better. And he reached out to me today, right? And I hope that he gets to, I hope he understands that I'm always going to be his friend first, and I'm not just like whatever about sobriety. It's just, I mean, sobriety is great for people who find it and make it work for them, and but it's usually a fleeting thing for everybody, and so what, you either understand that everybody's a piece of shit or you don't. Right? And it's like, so what? Is this person worth it? putting up with their bullshit? Is their bullshit something worth putting up with? You know, it's up to every person and every relationship, you know. But I don't know. Some people you just click with, and they're like, they show you that they're there for you in ways that you respect and acknowledge, you know, and you're there for them too because they're your friend, you know. It's just how it is, and it's not everybody. You don't care that way about everybody you meet, but whatever. I don't remember why I was talking about that. Thing is that there's crap in the occult that you got to filter out to find the good solid things, right, that are useful and meaningful in what we do. And it's always there, right? And it always keeps coming back to you in ways that you don't realize when you're doing good that you are. And it keeps manifesting in the same way that when you're sick you keep creating negative cycles that you repeat throughout your life. In the same way, when you're healthy, you create positive things that resonate with other things throughout your life. You figure out that you weren't a piece of shit the whole time, for example, but also that the occult has really good things in it too that resonate with things from long ago, right? So Crowley 777, getting back on track, haha. It has a lot of resonating things going all the way back that are true and valuable that you still have to find and look for, just like Agrippa, just like the Greek Magical Papyri. You know, these aren't all books about how to be a decent human being. They're about how to contact the gods and manipulate your world. It's you that decide what you're going to do with that. You decide whether it's going to be good or evil, okay? So anyway, don't be a dick, right? It's okay to not like things, but don't be a dick about it. All right, so magical powers are what we're talking about, and you get those through initiations into these 10 spheres here, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, right? According to the Golden Dawn. And excuse me. Sorry, I drank a lot of water. The spheres represent like levels of manifestation that the consciousness of God formed our universe with, right? So first is Kether, and then the fixed stars, and then Saturn and Jupiter and Mars and Sun, and right, the planets, and then the material world down here, right? And this is the realm of the four kings, where everything happens. This is like the ideal realm up here, and the realm of fate. So like they separate that out into different things. Okay, so in a geocentric world, I'm sorry, Roberto, I don't know how to turn on Spanish subtitles. I don't know how to do that, but I'll look it up and see if I can figure it out. Let's see. So each of the spheres are connected on the Tree of Life by these paths, and you can find, all right, so you go through the initiations into the spheres to get access to the powers of the planets or whatever it is they represent, and then the paths that connect them represent the magical powers that you can get from combining those energies of those planets as they materialize here in the material world. And what I'm talking about specifically is, if you go back to 777, the column shows the powers of the magical powers as they are represented on the Tree of Life. And the first 10 are these visions: the union with God, the vision of God face to face. It shows the 10 it shows the 10 spheres, what you receive in your initiations into each of those spheres. And as you build up those different visions from each of those perspectives on the universe, you understand a different slice of how it all fits. And then when you get back to one, you can see how it all fits together from above. And then when you go back below, you realize that you're looking at it the same thing the whole time, right? And that's the Emerald Path of the Emerald Tablet of Hermes. It's you rise through the spheres and return in power to create the world. And that's the path of initiation that the Golden Dawn taught, that reflects the teachings of the Corpus Hermeticum, that reflects what the Derveni manuscript says is necessary to be able to create those proper sacrifices, to create the harmonies that result in the experiences of your life, right? That come from a harmonious, pious pursuit of God. It's all part of that whole thing, right? But anyway, the magical powers are what we're trying to talk about. if I can focus, you get these magical powers to manifest your world as you're going through the initiations into the 7 spheres. Okay, now, and if you look at your whole great work, your esoteric pursuit, from beginning to end, and you say, okay, I'm starting off as a neophyte, I'm learning about this stuff, I learned that there's a great work, I'm learning about the different pieces and parts and components, there's 10 spheres, there's different ways of looking at how things came into being. Maybe I'm an emanationist, maybe I believe in Greek stuff, maybe I believe in Jewish stuff, maybe I believe in I don't know, Zoroastrianism, maybe whatever, I don't know, maybe I'm gonna make some shit up out of whole cloth that somehow seems to explain how it all works. You're figuring that out when you start out, but you start seeing patterns of things and something starts to resonate with you. For me, it's 16th century grimoire tradition magic, right? 16th century occultism is bread and butter to me. Why? I don't know. I think I was a 16th century magician back in the day, and I'm just reincarnated. I'm sure of it, in fact. But it resonates with me. I was able to connect with that, and I found a way to apply it to my modern world in a way that lets me manifest things today. Right? It's still good enough, even though it's outdated, and I had to do a lot of fucking filtering. It's good enough to be able to tap into the powers that create our universe by understanding this, right? So I found this pattern in the Golden Dawn and in Agrippa and in I kind of put it together. I might have been projecting it onto the Greek Magical Papyri, but then I'm back again further in the Orphic tradition. It was reflected, and I kept finding this pattern that actually reflects what Robert Anton Wilson taught back in the Illuminatus trilogy. Okay, it goes all the way back to Discordianism and the Principia Discordia. Okay, for me, like back in 1990, for fuck's sake, right? I mean, it goes all the way back to 1990 for me. but all of the truths that Robert Anton Wilson found in the 60s on acid and the 70s on acid and cocaine and working at Playboy with Hugh Hefner, you know, all those things that Robert Anton Wilson found in the 70s and 80s and 90s when he was writing for Red Wheel and Wiser, when they were publishing some of the best occult materials that were available at the time. Anyway, it's all there in the whole backlog, right? The whole backlog of our occult tradition, going back to the Orphics, going back to 500 BC, to an Orphic tradition of this guy sitting there making a commentary about an initiatory system and how other initiators aren't quite as good at explaining what's going on as he is. And by the way, this is what's really going on. Zeus is part of this all thing because he consumed this Orphic phallic source of everything and recreated the universe in his image in a demiurgic way, but it's benevolent, and he's everything that we experience is him, right? And when we understand that, we who have heard that Zeus is everything all in all, we who know that this is true, are free from the whips and snares of the Erinyes, the fates, right? So this is what this whole occult tradition of what Crowley says the Western mystery tradition is, one part of the name of this column that we're talking about. This whole magical practice and magical powers that we're supposed to get through initiation, that's what it's supposed to do for us, right? It's supposed to get us into a point where we can harmonize our universe in a way that we can manifest what we desire. Okay, this is our instrument that we play, this 10-sphered harp with all these strings. We play it like a fucking banjo sometimes, right? We're going to town on it because we're magicians and we do that. Anyway, so all right, so the 10 spheres represent the visions that you get as you go through these initiations, and then the let's see, what's the other? Let's go back to 3. Okay, and then if I can make this a little, bigify this a bit. All right, so divination, miracles of healing, gift of tongues, knowledge and sciences, all these other things on the paths. These represent the information that are on the paths in between the spheres of life on this one here. So yeah, so all of those powers are stuff that we talked about in a previous show about how you can get to the powers of those paths through the combination of the planets that are represented here by 5 and 6, right? So check out the last public live show if you want to see more about that. All right, so where were we? All right, so the actual initiations themselves, they represent... okay, so the great work, going back to the whole great work, the process of... get rid of that. So this is the all in all. This is our Zeus all in all. Can't forget who that is. All right. So this whole process of transforming yourself into an entity who can take comfort from stones, plants, animals, elements, heaven, spirits, angels, and everything. So that process is the process of climbing up through that tree of life from 10 up to 1 to obtain a conscious, whosoever shall know themselves shall know all things in themselves, a conscious union with the all thing, okay? So that when you go through the emerald tablet, you know, you're descending in power, okay? And you're able to materialize your universe around you, right? To the benefit of everybody else, but mostly to your own joy and your own satisfaction. And by the time you go through those 10 spheres, ideally, you are becoming a better, more moral, ethical person who's not going to screw one another over because you realize that you're just another part of the people that you'd be screwing over, right? So that's how it would work in theory. In practice, it looks like people get a little bit of power and turn into assholes, and then they stay an asshole until they realize that they're fucking themselves up, and then they get better a little bit. And it looks like incremental illumination. It's not ideal, but it looks like that's how it works. So whatever, it is what it is. Okay, so when you want to do an initiation, somebody asked what it is, and basically it's you conjure the intelligence of the sphere, and you ask it to initiate you, and you're done, right? And then you thank it for coming, and it goes out, and it does that. It sets up your universe so that you go through the processes that are going to clean you out and help you become more able to receive and direct the forces that it represents. All right, and what this looks like... if you go back to our Dervani manuscript, it talks about how Zeus swallowed the Orphic phallic source of everything and became the head, the middle, and the all in all, right? And the way I interpret that is the head is the idea, the source of everything. The middle is everything that manifests the will of the source into whatever we experience, right? So everything that's a spirit and a pantheon, a deity, a nymph, a satyr, right? A god, a goddess, an angel, a demon, an ifrit, an afrit, you know, a fire spirit, a jinn, right? All of these entities are invisible allies or spiritual beings, right? Most of their names, if you trace them back, go back to breath. They are breath spirits or aerial spirits in some interpretations. All of these entities rule over the materialization of an aspect of our existence according to the pantheon that they come from. There are woodland spirits who live in the woods who manifest woodland things. If you look at Disney's freaking Fantasia, you see these fairies come into the world and they skid across the water, leaving frost behind them because the spirits of winter had come and the previous spirits had left. Where does that come from? Themis and her pantheon of elves and spirits who bring about the calendar year. The liturgy of our season is dictated by a goddess of our Greek time, the first wife of Zeus, right? Themis. You know, she's the one that anyway. all of this stuff, it's all part of how. Anyway, it's the parts of things that are unseen rule over this materialization process of our experiences, right? So if you look at the tree of life as a materialization path, right, it starts in the mind of God. It moves itself down, all the way down through the different spheres into the elemental world, where it materializes here down in the 10th sphere, where we can experience it. Okay, so idea up here, and then some fate gets applied. In Saturn, you get your beginning and your ending. And Jupiter, you get your blessings and your positive things. The greater benefic blesses a thing. The lesser malefic gives it its disciplinary things. The sun applies its solar aspects. Venus, Mercury, the moon does how it's going to wax and wane into being, turns it over to the material elementals here, and then it goes down into the material world where we experience it, right? And this material elemental place is like where all those spirits I was just talking about live, right? And this is the aerial realm, the aerial spirits. People say that some of our spirits that we deal with are of the aerial nature. If you look at the Thurgia Goetia, the spirits are of both the aerial and terrestrial, celestial and terrestrial nature, right? So they're of both Isad and Malkuth, right? So that's where our spirits exist. That most of what we deal with are down under here. Deities representing the planets all exist up in here, right, in the spheres. But their servants that materialize things are all down here between 9 and 10. And that's where most of our magic happens, right? Most of our occult stuff, according to this glyph anyway, on this map, all of this is over here, and this is the middle. Okay, so Zeus the head is up here at 1, right? Zeus the middle is everything from 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, all the way down to just above 10. Everything invisible in this little pantheonic way of looking at things, or this three-world version of things as source, middle, and all thing. It's everything in between 1 and 10, 2 through 9 is Zeus the middle, and then 10 is Zeus the all in all. That's where everything gets experienced within everything, and all this tree of life is all Zeus. Okay, so well, thank you. All right, so yeah, we're getting on where to start with all this stuff. You start on your own whenever you want to. Okay, and the method of initiation, in my opinion, should be the 4 elemental kingdoms, right? And start at the lowest first, and it's earth, and then water, and then air, and then fire, and then after that you're initiated into the 4 kingdoms, and then after that you start in 9. Here, this is Isad, that's the sphere of the moon. Then you call on Gabriel, and you ask him to initiate you. You learn about things, you integrate the forces, you ask him to turn you over to Raphael of Hode, right? So that's one method of doing all this, and you just work your way up through the spheres, integrating these forces as you go along. So that's the method that I basically recommend for all this stuff. But this thing about Zeus the head, Zeus the middle, and Zeus the all in all, the 3 methods, the 3 layers of where things are at. When you go through an initiation, you go through a similar 3-layer process as you're going through each of these things. Okay, so like in the sphere of the moon, when you go through an initiation in the sphere of moon, you're going to get part of it is the head, right? You're going to have the source of the realm of the moon, where you interact with the whole essence of the planet in a way that reveals waxing and waning in a really fascinating way, right? And it's very palpable to you, and you won't ever forget that essence, but it's kind of beyond words, right? And then also you get to meet the deity, right? It coalesces into Selene and Hecate and Artemis, into this triple goddess, or however she manifests to you. Maybe she's a black-haired, silent person who changes shape over time. However she manifests to you, you get to know this goddess aspect of the moon, right? That's this part of this deific force, and people have made all these different layers and hierarchies of spirits. If you look at like um, choirs of angels, right, or the pseudo monarchia daemonorum, you've got the different feudal titles for the demons, right, and they're supposed to have different ranks in hell that are all based on these feudal titles, right? These layers that people apply to these different forces, they're all based on large human movements, right? Legions or choirs or whatever, But the idea is that there's many different layers of entities working under these things. So when I say the first thing you meet is the goddess, what I'm talking about is like, as the crystalline idea of the moon coalesces into an intelligence that you can interact with, you're going to start to see the God version of them, right? And then maybe like for me, later on, quote unquote, as it coalesces a little more in a more intellectual, communicatory way, it goes down from the experience of bliss and sort of intuitive knowing that I have with the goddess to a more conversational and almost like boardroom level conversation with the intelligence or the archangel of the planet, like Gabriel, or the little boardroom of spirits from I can't remember the long phrase right, I don't know off the top of my head, but the Levana spirits, right, from Heptameron, I think it is. Yeah, there are different aspects of this crystalline force, but they're all the same. They're all the same in a lot of ways, but they're different ways for you to relate to these other spirits, right? So as you learn this process, you're learning where you fit into this middle aspect, that part of you that you consider yourself that has a lunar aspect to it too. Like my moon is over in Aquarius, right? That means where my emotions are at are going to be reflected, through some interpretations of that particular constellational impact on someone, right? So like that's where my inner world might be one way of interpreting that, right? But that relationship for me, for my moon, is also going to reflect how I see new experiences coming into my life and current experiences leaving my life. How do I deal with loss? How do I deal with recognition? How do I deal with acclaim and disrepute? How do I deal with those different things from the same and different people? That's all lunar. These tidal forces that come into being in your life. Your relationship to those, like your own blood sugar level, right? All of these tidal things are aspects of your inner world and your inner workings that influence your material experience that you're going to learn about in this middle layer of your initiation. And you find yourself learning these things for the rest of your life in different ways. But the first thing that happens is most of your misconceptions about that aspect of your life are eliminated. Okay, so we're going to look at the process of how that happens. All right, because a lot of the initiatory process can be painful, right, at first when you don't really understand what's going on. And if you look at the whole alchemical thing, right, if you look at the great work as the creation of the philosopher's stone, it's the combination of three separate stones. Okay, the anima, the animal stone, the mineral stone, and the vegetable stone, right? The animal, the vegetable, and the mineral stones. Anima is the spirit. It's not animal like dogs, and cats, and whatever. It's anima. It's the spirit stone. Okay, it represents the purification of your spirit and your spiritual aspects related to what your stone that you're creating is. Okay, that's your anima. Your vegetable stone, vegeta, that's that which grows things. Okay, that's the aspects that create life and the experience of life in your daily sensory interaction with the rest of the all thing, everything that's outside your skin and beyond, all that comes into you through this body, all of that information, right? That's all the vegetative stuff that's moving, the stuff that we're doing and experiencing with, right? That stuff that is in motion, that's the vegetative stuff, and that's all controlled by these spirits that we work with, all these pantheons that represent the planetary forces in the material world. All of those entities are our vegetative stone, quote unquote. Okay, that's what that purification of that has to happen as well if you're going to create your philosopher's stone for any situation, right? And then your mineral stone as well has to be purified. You have to create in your material world the perfect opportunity and the decisions to interact with the rest of the all thing in the moment to receive that opportunity into your life so that you can't miss it, so it doesn't get past you, so that you can, I don't want to say interrupt the flow of things, but influence the flow of things in your behalf, right? So like you have to purify your spiritual aspect of things first, and that means, in my opinion, that just means remembering that you get what you want if you really want it, okay? Because that's just how things work, right? So that's your spiritual force in this world. You get what you want if you want it, if you're willing to do what it takes, okay? And if you look at people who are able to do things that are greater than you, it's because they have what it takes to do those things, and you can have those things too if you do the things that it takes to get those things. And it sucks to get those things. That's why they have them, and that's why they're so bad at what they do with it. You know, to get power, you have to be a power getter, and power getters suck. That's why people in power suck. So anyway, I get off on tangents all the time. So you have to purify these three different aspects of the stone to create your philosopher's stone. So like I have this idea for a hermetic retreat that I want to build. That's my goal, right? So I have to get in touch with my spiritual side of things. Like, where is this coming from? To me, I think it represents my true will as the part of my life, because I have a vision for things, and it's a spiritual vision, I swear to God. And it's really, I really do have a vision for things, and part of it is, a very small part of it is this hermetic retreat, but that's just because this place is beautiful and it restores your soul and it puts you in touch with some really amazing things. And I want that to be something that we can all tap into if you're called to this kind of thing. And I know it's not going to be everybody's cup of tea, especially being the kind of person that I am, and that's fine. I don't want everybody in the world beating a path to our door, but I would like to have a small place where people can come and just kind of get in touch with nature every once in a while, you know, the touch grass thing, right? Because it's important. And there's specific initiatory forces that I think are better communicated with in the wild, and I would like to have a place where people can come on a regular basis and do initiatory processes, right? And have a community of like-minded individuals to exchange thoughts and whatnot on. And not like in a communal state by any means. It would be my fucking place, and you could come if you bought a fucking ticket or some shit. I don't know. There's got to be boundaries. Mars has got to be in place. But, you know, within that context and where everybody's safe and can operate within a bubble of reasonable security, you know, I would like it to be something that's good for everybody and provides a healthy aspect where we can pursue our own manifestation of this whole path of creation, right? Because I think it makes everybody's else's experience better. So that's my philosopher's stone, and I'm trying to create that. This show is part of that. This ongoing teachings, this whole selling of talismans that make people fucking happy. What? Yeah, you can have a talisman that actually fixes your sex problems. It's not that hard, right? You can just take the picture of the image that I posted the other day and draw it yourself, in the morning on a Friday in the first hour of the morning and just ask Aphrodite to bless it, draw the pinnacle of Venus on the back that has the 4 spirits on it. Ask them to direct her powers into your life to bring you the perfect sex life to heal everything. I sell the talismans because people like to buy talismans from people, but you can do this yourself. Everybody can do this themselves, right? Whatever. I have bills to pay, and I'm going to pay bills with people's money that they give me for talismans. Whatever. I appreciate the support. Please keep it coming. But, you can do this yourself. This isn't about me getting rich off of anybody, all right? I've got other income streams that I'm doing fine. Okay, make your own talismans. They're more powerful, I believe. They're more effective, I believe. They demonstrate to you unequivocally that you are able to influence your life in ways that nobody else ever can. They give you power in ways that my talismans never will. Ever, ever, ever. Okay, all you get from my talismans are a sense of support. That I did it at the right hour. You have a little bit of trust in it, a little bit of faith, and also I bless whoever has it. So whatever blessings I have to bestow, I cast upon you. But 100% of it is you taking the powers that you have in your hand and looking for opportunities to use them, right? And this Faskiness talisman is one way to do it for sex, that everybody has a sex drive, I feel, except asexuals. God bless them. But I feel like some part of our lives are all sexual, and I feel like sex is a great way to understand how to control your experience of life on Earth, right? Not control it, but influence it in ways that are healthy and positive for yourself and others. I think is a great way to learn about that in a consensual and positive, healthy way, right? I'm not talking about anything that's manipulative or coercive. And believe me, anybody who tries to use these talismans that way would suffer painfully for it. Okay, it's not about that. It's about healing, okay? Wealth is the other thing. Wealth is even more pervasive. Everybody fucking wants wealth, and everybody suffers from being poor. And if you don't think you suffer from being poor, get rich. Get rich and see the difference in the quality of your life when you have money to buy good food. Everything is better. And you cannot buy good food in the city. They do not take it into the city. It stops. We moved out here to the suburbs, and I got fresh produce. It's disgusting. Okay? Look, but the thing is everybody can be rich when they decide they're sick of being poor. And I am telling you this not because whatever, all that pie in the sky bullshit. I'm telling you this because you are programmed. If you're poor, you are programmed to think that you're supposed to be. And it's just rich people fucking with you. I promise. And as soon as you stop playing their game, you realize that it's just a game and anybody can play. And you can play too. And when you start playing with magic, when you're playing the game of business and the game of life in 2024 with spirits on your side, fuck this system. They don't have anything that you can't outsmart with the Initiatory, right? One fucking talisman from the Initiatory, from Mercury, you can outsmart every system on this planet. Okay, this whole thing, and not because they do it for you or everything just goes your way, but because they teach you how to think. They change you in ways, they purify your Mercury so that you're able to communicate with this informational construct in ways that make the patterns meaningful to you. You understand things better, and the system works at your bequest because you understand the system. It's just like creating this harmony in your life, right? The Initiatory, this one little talisman, gives you an advantage over, even in our own community, how many people do you know with an Initiatory talisman? Right? It's for diplomats, students, right? Why? Because they know everything and they'll tell you whatever you want to know. Oh, right? So this is the kind of thing that like, it's ridiculous when you realize that you don't play by their rules. You know, their rules are for the, it's There are rules that govern how transactions are conducted at the carnival. Okay? At the carnival, they have rules that dictate what you're allowed to do. If you ever go to a food, I went to a farmer's market where they give you tokens at the door. Like you buy a token for $15 and everybody uses tokens through the whole thing, and then when you leave, you give them back whatever tokens you have and you get your money back. Dumbest fucking thing I ever saw in my life. Right? But for some reason, that was an equating thing. It was an equalizing thing. I don't understand it. I still don't. But it showed how ridiculous our games are. Our games that we play with money. Right? And I think maybe that was part of it. Maybe that was some kind of coercive ontological thing. I hope so. You know? But this whole thing is, it's part of the illumination of the big eye up here that I always have up in the corner. Part of that illumination is understanding that this whole thing is a projection. Our experience of it is our decisions that we make in reaction to these projections, right? And it's collective, it's synergetic. We participate together in this, and we get to play by whatever rules we want. Life is hard. It's set up hard. The backdrop right now is the Kali fucking Yuga. Everything's going to shit. It's gonna suck for everybody. There's too many people doing too many bad things. Okay, life is gonna go on, with or without us. Whatever. That's the backdrop. Okay? The media will continue to exaggerate that storyline in your life to the point where you feel guilty pursuing your own joy or doing anything that somehow, when you trace it all back, turns out benefits a billionaire. I'm not saying that the world's not going to hell. I'm not saying that the planet hasn't gotten fucked by human beings. It has. Maybe it's game over. I don't know. But in the meantime, I've got 50 years left to experience my existence here. I'm going to keep carving out joy no matter what people think about that. Because I have to live it. All right? And it's not what are my alternatives? You know, volunteering at the soup kitchen somehow makes Elon Musk richer. You know? How does that work? Because it's a game. It's a game set up to make a few people rich and everybody else suffer. But we don't have to play that game. We are above it and beyond it. We are called to live a different kind of life. All right? We're not better than anybody else. We're just different. We get to play differently because we decide to. We have, BJ Swain says we have witch blood, right? Witch fire. We've been through a transformative experience, or we were born different, or we incarnated with our past lives intact, or whatever our backstory is that explains why we're a little different and we get to communicate with spirits instead of everybody else. Whatever that might be, whatever our storyline is, I don't give a shit. We're all into magic and we get to use it. That's what we have in common. Okay, whether we don't agree on why it works or how it works, this way that I'm talking about seems to work. It works great for me. It doesn't work for everybody. I hear from people that this doesn't work. I'm like, well, what'd you do? It turns out, in my opinion, they did it wrong. But I understand it's not going to work off the shelf for everyone. It's okay. That's not my problem. You know, there's plenty of other people out there with other methods that are effective for a lot of other people. Okay, Jason Miller has a great set of courses. You know, Sarah Mastros has an incredible set of courses. You know, a lot of new people are popping up on the scene with a lot of interesting things. BJ Swain has provided a huge cornucopia of quality materials to be able to access this middle section. All right, you know, take your pick and make up your own path, because what everybody's saying, it's just part of it. You know, it's your experience that matters, right? So anyway, that's the middle part. That's the vegetable stone. And these initiations into the seven spheres are what give you the access to those powers of those 22 paths, right? to influence and manifest and materialize things in Malkuth, the material world, right? So it's very much an alchemical process. You're purifying your spiritual connection to that sphere. You're purifying your relationship to the entities of that sphere, right? You're establishing it and learning how to work with them by practicing, by asking them for things related to their sphere and seeing how it manifests, taking notes, learning, doing it again, seeing what worked the same way. It's a process. It's not overnight, right? It's an alchemical process. And then taking that practice and applying it to your real life plan, right? So like I practice my love magic to heal my heart. I practice my love magic to create the perfect sex life for myself and the relationship with the most beautiful woman that I can find, right? whatever you do, right? And then I use the Venus magic to continue to prosper and promote my next level out, right? My relationships, my social circle, right? And then I use it again to connect to the all thing aspect of Aphrodite, who is the the other side of the Fascinus, the creative generative force, the sexual union that creates existence, right? The push me pull you of eternal manifestation, the yin and the yang, the yani lingam, right? That whole masculine feminine interplay is Aphrodite and the Fascinus. It doesn't need to be connected to a human, by the way. She's fine, just fine without it, right? And of course I say that I'm a Taurus. She's Venus rules Taurus. But you purify that interconnection and it results in a more purified middle layer, right? That you connect to that aspect of that source. And that means working through trauma. It means working through breakups. It means working through all that stuff of the material world that keeps you from being able to experience pure love, pure sexual, creative, inspiring, romantic love, right? All that stuff that's in the way, right? That all has to be cleaned up so you can have a really, in my opinion, and it doesn't have to be, okay, I'm full of shit about this, honestly. People get through life without it, okay? I think this is all ideal talk. I'm still working on it. I'm not like, I haven't succeeded in all this stuff for sure. But ideally, we would, right? So, I don't know. I don't want to like come across like some kind of guru or some shit. But the after that middle stage, you start to align your physical world. You apply it, the philosopher's stone, to the rest of it. So once I get my revenue streams cleaned up and my licensing structure properly set up and my insurance and coverage in place, I can start coming out with different aspects of my therapeutic business. I can start covering my event stuff that I have planned. I can start developing some other aspects of some businesses I have in place now. You know, I can create different aspects of those things, and I've got the magic in place to build on those things as I get everything else put together, and I should be okay, right? I feel like everything is going to be all right, and as long as things keep going, I should be on track to be where I want to be in a couple of years here. So I'm pretty happy about all that stuff, right? So that's the mineral side of things. I'm making sure my credit is good. I'm making sure my bills are paid. I'm making sure that my kids are in a safe, healthy place so that I don't have a big need in 3 years that all of a sudden I have to drop everything to save someone's life because I wasn't taking care of them along the way. You know what I mean? Like, I'm making sure that every aspect of my life is secure in the material world as part of my mineral phase of cleansing and preparation, right? So this whole process is very alchemical, and it has to do with the animal, the vegetable, and the mineral stone that you combine to create a philosopher's stone, right? So bear in mind that this is an alchemical process, okay? Every alchemical process goes through and this is not true, okay? One interpretation of every alchemical process is that it goes through these different phases, the colored phases. If you look at copper as you heat it up, you'll see that it goes through the colorful changes of, first it turns black, and then the black stuff turns white, and then it goes through this coppery coppery color where it like goes through like a peacock color, and then it turns bright red, right? And it glows red. So those are the phases of the color as you heat up the copper, and once it turns bright red, it cools back down, and then you can make it more malleable and everything, and then you can retemper it and polish it, and it's good to go. Anyway, that's an aspect of how as you heat up a thing, and the impurities rise to the surface, and then those impurities burn away, and then it goes through a process of transformation as it goes through these different colorful stages, and then it comes out glowing red. And that's the phases of the creation of the red work, or the red stone, which is what you get out of the great work, right? So you're going to do that for your animal, your vegetable, and your mineral stone. So you're going to have that for every planet. You're going to go through those different phases in those different aspects of its power in your life. So when you go to Venus and you say, give me an initiation into the powers of Venus so I can understand how love works and I can manifest the best love life for me and everybody else around me. You go in there and they're like, okay, let's see. Oh, wow, in second grade she said what? You're like, what? And you're like, oh my God, I see everybody still saying that to me, and that's not true. And it's like, oh, okay, so all of a sudden that's free for you to see a different aspect of love in the universe, right? And you're like, oh, wow. And you see it in your own life. You're like, oh, wow, that's part of my experience now, right? Because you healed a part of yourself. So that came as a way for you to cleanse that lens between you and that source of that aspect of existence, of love, so that you can see a better part of her, a better part of Aphrodite herself, a more clear image of what love is in that deistic way. So you're cleansing your spiritual aspect with them, and then from that light that you get from that clearer sight, you're able to see more of the spirit world that lies between the source and the material world. So like in Venus, you have Cupid and Eros and all of her assistants, right? And their partners and whatnot, right? And all their lovely little mythos. And they have a whole pantheon of spirits that work under them, a legion of Venusian entities, venereal, if you will, out there, out and about, causing mischief. So yeah, those entities become apparent to you as you go through this process, and that's that middle layer. And then that's the vegetative, the growth, the generative layer of things, the generational, the whole genital aspect of things. Yeah. So let's see. Where was I? Animal stone, vegetable stone. Also, your body, you cleanse out this stuff in the psychological area, so you can see that aspect of things better. It also changes how you think about things. You start to see things in a different light. You understand things differently, and you start to feel things differently. Your emotions are all stored in your body, it turns out. You feel it. At least for me, I found that a lot in my therapy. As I go through my therapy process, my therapy says, where do you feel that in your body? And you learn different things about that aspect of your feelings when you start putting it together with your physical sensation and why you are the way you are now, right? And it's an interesting exercise to kind of be whole with yourself, right? And that's also purifying your spiritual, your mental, and your physical aspect, right? And tying it all together so that you're actually experiencing your life, so that you are this little three-pointed triangle with an eyeball that is shining the light of God through it and receiving back the light of God that's being shined through the lights of everybody else, right? That's our goal here, so that this universe and I are working in harmony to create an experience that is joyful for me and for everybody else, or as much as possible, against the backdrop of horrors and terrors that somehow have to fucking exist at the same time. I don't appreciate that. I'd like to make that better too, but I don't know how to at this point. Yeah. All right. So is that everything that I wanted to talk about? I think that might be it. Oh, I did want to talk about how, as you're going through this process, the initial heat that these spirits apply to your life is going to draw out that negativity. Okay. And that's what people, I don't think, I know I never made a big deal about it when I was telling people to jump into this shit, but it can be very painful, because you've built a life that you're experiencing right now based on your current understanding of those powers as they manifest in your life, whether you're conscious of it or not. All right, when you look at the Abramelin, right? It talks about the Holy Guardian Angel is with you the whole time and is saving your ass from bad mistakes through your whole life. Okay, it's been with you the whole time, and it reveals to you all the times it saves your life when it reveals itself to you, according to Abramelin. All right, now in the same way, each of these intelligences and deities of these spheres are going to show you how they are in your life right now, either to your knowledge or unbeknownst to you. Okay, and they are influencing you, and they're influencing you through the voices of your past, through the voices of your present, and the voices of your future that are coming into being around you through the decisions that you make today. Okay, that's what you learn to see in your life, and you learn to see it across all this stuff, and it can come with pain and trauma, and you got to do this hand in hand with a therapist if you've got trauma. Okay, you guys don't try to do this on your own. Another important part of all this stuff is your holy guardian angel. Okay, we are not in this alone. Everybody does not have to have a holy guardian angel, but it is so recommended. All right, the reason that one of the main courses I offer is the holy guardian angel is that it's so useful. All right, but you don't have to go through my courses by any means. All you really have to do is pray for this spirit to reveal itself to you and ask for a name. Okay, there's different methods that you can generate this stuff, but ask it for a name in prayer and listen. All right, and ask it to prove that it is what it is, and it will. It's what it does. Okay, it'll show you the proof that you need. All right, and it'll convince you in ways that nothing else will make sense, and you'll have a text to prove that what you experienced is real, that is proof to you alone, that nobody else will ever understand or really understand. I try to put it into words with this blueberry raspberry smell I smelled while I was doing Liber Somic. Worked for me. Don't know how to explain that to you, though. But this entity will help protect you from your own mistakes and your own ignorance, and also lead you to a path that is a little safer as you're going through all this stuff. All right, and again, and you can never be afraid to quit. Okay, there's no problem that you can pull up that's not too big, or that's too big that you can't get rid of. All right, end of the day, there's always the LBRP. Okay, you can always banish all this shit and say, thank you for your time. As you came in peace, so go in power. Please go back to wherever you came from. I'll deal with this later. Set my life to rights. And it will. Because they're here because you want them here. And why do you want them here? Why do we go through this pain? For the joy set before us. It is amazing. It is amazing to know that we get to do, I don't know how to put it without it sounding terrible right now, but basically the clarity that comes when you understand that your decisions that you make, not your impulses or your intrusive thoughts or whatever, not your mania, not whatever, not those things. The things that you do with your life, it's up to you. And it's yours, right? And you're free, and you're powerful, and you're as good as you want to be, right? And you get to do all that, and you're empowered to do all that. It's really cool, I really hope everybody understands that that's one of the perks of being a magician, right? It's not the only one. My opinion, it's the main one that's worth pursuing if you're into the whole great work stuff. I think Illuminism is the most healthy way to find who you are and represent what you represent in the world. All right, so I'm sorry. Let's go back to the comments here. I'm sorry. I've been lost in my own stuff here. Let's see. Nixa, Peralta, Gob, and Sraf don't want to work with their counterparts to get traumatized. I don't agree with Danny Taylor on that, though. I don't think you get traumatized from working with the Maimon and Payman. I think you find with the spirits what you expect, though. If you have if you have an expectation of getting traumatized, you probably will. You know, if you're afraid of what you're, it's very much like Yoda's cave. You really do find what you bring to the cave with you. You know, if you understand though that that's what's going on, you're also free to leave anytime you want. Let's see, 90s were very good times. Where to begin with initiation? Your book or all right? Diana asks where to begin with initiation. Anywhere you want. Right? My books talk about the 7 sphere initiations that are great for that. Okay, wonderful. You'd start with, you conjure the intelligence of the sphere and then the Orphic hymn, and that is an initiation into that sphere where you are exposed to it. It begins to vibrate with the purity of itself in your sphere that harmonizes with it, and it creates through resonance a wonderful feeling that is heat, that creates heat in your life that becomes uncomfortable to those things that are counter to that power being purified in your life. So people leave that aren't supposed to be there. Bad people leave when you conjure good spirits. All right. And it's a great way to lose people that you thought were your friends, but it's always, always, always to your benefit. You never lose anything that's good for you from an initiation, ever, ever. And anybody who tells you different wants to hold on to something they never were, because it's safer than accepting how things are. That's all it ever turns out to be, I swear to God. And we don't have to be that way. It's all right. It's all right. It's scary sometimes to accept things, but nothing kills us. Not so far, you know? And there's no evidence to prove that even after these little bodysuits are gone, that the parts of us that live are gone. We're eternal and we're immortal. That's just how it is. You know, this is supposed to be for fun, right? And if it's hurting one another, then stop doing it. Stop doing it, right? For yourself and others. Let's see. Enthusiasm is palpable. You tell you really want this. Yes, exactly. Thank you. I will definitely say hello to Nicole. Is this information the 7 spheres above? Not really. The 7 spheres was sort of a trick in a positive way. It's supposed to, it's forgetting what you want, right, through initiation, but it also tricks you into becoming aware of who you are as a magician, right? It teaches you, whether you mean it to or not, it will show you, I'm trying to turn this on here, who you are, right? That's my whole goal with everything. At least that was my intention with it. But most of the people that have been through it get to a point in their life where they don't know what they want. It doesn't tell you how to find that out. And that's been sort of like the biggest complaint, is they're like, is this it? Is this it? And I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, well, I'm not rich, but I have everything I want and I'm pretty happy with it, but I'm kind of bored. And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, but where's my purpose? Where's my meaning? And, you know, the only thing about purpose in life is what you're doing on purpose. That's what having purpose is what you're doing is on purpose. Are you working for you or are you working for someone else? You know, at the end of the day, is your life on purpose? That's whether or not you have a purpose. You know, it's not, did God give you a purpose? Did you incarnate for a purpose? Are you fated with a purpose? Fuck that. You figure that out by doing your life on purpose. That's your purpose. So anyway, that's my goal for that. Let's see. Hyro says, "Gifted the 7 spheres some time ago. You've been hesitant to start. You mentioned beginning with the elemental initiations. No, it would be fine to start with 7 spheres. Okay, the 4 elements. I mean, honestly, you can kind of do that one in your sleep. I don't mean to be rude about it, but I did it with a book called The 21 Lessons of Merlin. It's a ridiculously fake book, but it was really effective for me. You ask the kings of the elements to initiate you, and you test them, right? And the way it works is you set out an offering, right? And you say, if I complete this relatively simple task by dawn, and you accept this offering, I will know that I've been initiated into the elemental kingdom, right? And you challenge the 4 elemental lords to a race through a natural place, right? And you have to finish the race by dawn. And it's straight out of this book from the 90s, and it's a fake book. It's not even real. Okay, but it's a really effective way to get initiated into the four elements because they like it. They think it's fun, and they do that with you. And I had the weirdest experiences. I was like, I want to say like 16 or 17, and I'm walking through this park across the street from my house, and it's like midnight. And there's all these elemental challenges to me, like the sprinkler comes on when it's the water time. I was like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. It was just, and it was all these weird little challenges to stop me from getting where I wanted to go. But from fire, it was just like these bright lights, you know? And it was just all these reasons not to finish this walk across the park. I was just like, this is so weird, you know? But it was just these token challenges, and I was initiated into the elemental kingdoms, right? And I felt their presence ever since, you know? It's a really simple way to do that. Let's see, but that's the elemental kings for me, and there's more to it, I'm sure, but when it comes to my actual magic, all I do is call on the kings and I say, please take this from the realm of the moon and do your work. Manifest it according to our desires, you know, and that's about it. If I have something water, especially watery, I ask for Edgen to do things. I like to say Edgen is my favorite because it's fun, but I like them all pretty much equally, and you know, if you want something faster, you call on Orions. If you want something to do with earth, if you want something mineral, like if I was looking for malachite at a fair once, and I called on Gob to bring me to malachite, and I found a vendor that had malachite. It wasn't that hard, and it wasn't coincidental. I mean, chances are they were everywhere, but I got pulled in one direction and I went, you know, there I found what I wanted, so I counted that as success. But that's elemental initiations. They're not, I mean, they're great, but they're not like difficult, right? I mean, you live in this material world, and so it's really just like being like a little bit aware of looking at things through the number 4, right? With the qualities of 4, it's pretty simple stuff. Let's see. Building the talismans in the book require a lot of materials. It's okay to go through the initiations and then go back and build the talismans. Is that ideal? In the Seven Spheres book, you can make everything out of paper and pencil and dawn of the planetary day. There's no materials. There's just paper and pencil and your finger and like a cup or a bowl for water. It's supposed to be super, super easy. Please contact me on my Facebook Instant Messenger if you want. I'll send you PDFs. I sat down with a paper and pencil and conjured Gabriel the first night that I talked to angels because it was so easy, and it was a Monday, and it would have been another spirit. It was Raphael the following Wednesday because it was Wednesday, right? It's pretty simple stuff, and I will gladly show you everything I know about it if you just talk to me. I'm not afraid of being able to I'm afraid of not being able to shut the door once it's been opened. Yes, the initiations, yes, you can't go backwards, but they never lead anywhere bad. You know, it is what it is. You can't be afraid of going forward. You know, you wouldn't be here if you weren't called to it. Nobody would be, you know, but if you're scared, don't go now. Wait till you're confident. There's nothing to be afraid of. You won't find anything that you won't find outside of here. You know, everything that we don't know. So all the occult is hidden. It's like understanding our subconscious reasons for doing things is one aspect of knowing the occult. Understanding the elemental reasons for things happening. Understanding the planetary reasons or astrological reasons for what's going on. Understanding how to influence your current situation by using a talisman of Mars, you know, understanding how to bring those planetary things. If that's all occult knowledge, it is. Power is being able to call on the spirits that do that and have them answer you and do what you want. And they do that based on what you tell them, because that's part of how it's designed. And the power that we have is only special because not everybody believes it. Not everybody can do it. It doesn't work for everybody. I mean, it does eventually if you keep trying, I believe. But I think most people give up because it's silly. Honestly, whatever. It doesn't matter because we aren't here to play their games. So, let's see. Yes. I wake up in the morning. All right, guys, I'm done. Thanks everybody for your time. I appreciate everything. I am done with everything. Let's see, Julian, you asked what forms of divination do I use? Tarot, geomancy. I use tarot mostly. Also the I Ching. I like that one. Thanks for talking about the inner workings of the spheres, past approach. Yes, you're welcome. Alrighty. Yeah. All right, everybody, have a good night. Talk to you later.